What are we cooking today? Or better yet, what's for lunch? In the past, when I was asked what was my specialty, I felt puzzled. I thought I had a wide variety of cuisines, but I realized it's because I cook everything with love, so it's easier for me to change cuisines very often. I came to realize that my specialty eats meats. Beef, lamb, chicken, quail, rabbit, fish, shellfish. I am a gaucha, but that's another episode. Today, I will share a recipe of boneless leg of lamb that I learned in school. Growing up in the south of Brazil, I was not very fond of lamb. I had a concept of a weird smell, and yeah, it's one of those things that you do when you grow up. So you fast forward to 2009, I'm in New York, I get laid off, and I decide to go back to cooking school. My first class at the Institute of Culinary Education with Chef Anita, and I had to prepare lamb chops. I was really shocked, but I could not run away. I had to make the best of it. Long story short, I simply love it, and I cook it at least once a week. If you want a side dish, make fluffy rice and asparagus, or even better yet, the Greek potato style. You're going to have one very happy stomach. A recipe is from my first cookbook in Portuguese entitled From Dad to Daughter, The 100 Best Recipes, and also found in a separate podcast at the end of this episode. Now guys, here's the weekly menu. Monday, mushroom risotto. Tuesday, ratatouille. Wednesday, pasta with vodka sauce. Thursday, grilled skirt steak. And Friday, veal parmigiana. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with nobody less than Damien Montecer. And please let me know if I did not pronounce your name correctly, because I hate when people mispronounce my name. So I'm not going to introduce you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I just want to let the people who are listening to us right now understand that we are on the phone. You're not here with me because I'm in my living room in New York and you are in your home in Rio. So Damien, it's a pleasure having you today. Tell us more about yourself. You can tell us, and the easy way to start this is tell us about your departures and your arrivals. So you were born in France, in Marseille?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you move for the first time?
For me too, Nadia, to talk to you. If we're a bit far of each other, I'm today in Rio, and I live in Rio for 20 years now.
Wow.
Okay, but to resume quickly my career, I was growing up in south of France, in Provence, and then I did catering school at the time and went to London to try a little bit of expectation chefs to feel how it was like to work abroad. So I did my training in London, and then I went to New York, and from New York I went to Brazil. So why Brazil? Because it was at the time in 2001, Twin Towers went down. Mm-hmm. We closed the restaurant, and obviously lots of people went out because we couldn't work.
Yes, the city was shut down. I mean, not completely.
Yeah, I didn't have any holidays at the time, so I chose to go to Rio de Janeiro to relax.
And then you fell in love.
Yeah.
Really?
Listen to that one.
Okay.
It was in October. Okay. It was beginning of summer in Rio. And then I had a travel ticket for 2 weeks to spend 2 weeks relaxing in Copacabana Beach. And I didn't come back to New York. I was very surprised and very amazed about Rio de Janeiro. Its culture, the colors, and the food-wise was completely different of what I was being taught in France, in Europe, and the UA. So I was discovering a new Latino and American culture, South American culture that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then I was doing markets and restaurants and everything, and spent some money during my holidays, and was all the time surprised and amazed about what I was doing here. And during my time here, I made some contacts and visited some French restaurants and French patriotic chefs and everything. And then one day I met a French guy who was opening a huge complex of like gastronomic complex with bakery, restaurant, fine dining table in the south zone, in Leblon, in the south zone of Rio. And he was begging me to help him because I was telling him I was coming from New York, so I had new techniques and few things like to help him. And he said, no, I give you an apartment, stay with me, I pay you, and give me a hand because here everything is very difficult and I'm on the opening station. So I said, yeah, why not? And then it was to help him for 1 week. And then he offered me a sous chef stay in the restaurant and say, no, I paid you for a working visa if you want, and you can stay in Rio and in Brazil to discover. Then I say, okay, why not? I was very young at the time, and then I didn't come back to New York. I just stayed here, and someone brought me my luggage and everything. I left it in New York, and then I stayed for 8 months. I didn't have my working visa just went off, and then I had to go back to New York. I went back to New York, and I was very emotion to New York, and I said, if one day I have an opportunity to come back to Brazil, I will do for sure, because I had a very, very great time at the time. The time to travel from north to south of Brazil. You know, it's a huge country, as you know. The culture is very different in every part of Brazil. So it was for me a new challenge and new discovery, because of the gastronomy was a bit poor at the time. And then I was thinking that, wow, if I could come here, I would do a lot in this country. That's why I was very heartbroken when I left Rio. And
so Damien, I understand. We we are expats. We miss home. But you said something in 2001. I was here. I saw the towers falling. And I remember it was a very hard feeling, and the city was different. So I came to visit New York for the first time in 1991. I was a teenager, was 11 years old, and I danced at the time. So I came with my dance studio. The gastronomy at the time was completely different than what we have today. It was very similar to what we had in Brazil, because we went to the delis, right? So every corner they had a deli. The deli had a buffet. The buffet had fruit, vegetables, all of that good stuff. And I was surprised to see good fruits and all, but it's, as you said, Brazil is so big and we have so many different fruits and vegetables. It's unbelievable. Then you go back home and you see that you have way more fruits and vegetables in Brazil, and they have a great taste, right? And one thing I learned over the years, and you can tell us more about this, you guys French have this magical touch with every vegetable. Okay, I don't know what it is, but just like the Italians are great with pasta, the French are amazing with vegetables. Damien, it's something so simple. So you were talking about the techniques in New York and what you saw in Brazil. What can you tell us? What did you learn? What can you use in Brazil that you learned here, or what you knew in France, right? Growing up, remember we were talking about the mussels that I said I didn't know how to cook mussels, and my great friend Carl from Bordeaux, he said, oh my God, Nadia, we know how to make mussels at home. And I said, no, look, I'm a gaucho, okay? Give me a piece of steak and I'll make the best steak for you, but I don't know how to cook mussels. So tell us about the veggies, the fruits. What is it so simple that you guys do? And getting to Brazil and seeing all of the richness, what can you tell the listeners, please?
Nadia, it's very simple. Just a little bit of history. In Europe and in France, we broke 5 or 6 wars in France, right? Mm-hmm. And then I remember my grandparents when they were talking to us about the Second World War, which was one of the most powerful brainwash war in France. Mm-hmm. They were saying that it wasn't any food left during the war. So the French people had to eat and to cook and eat what was left. Mm-hmm. So meat, fish was very impossible to get at the time. They had to eat and grow things from the countryside, which was left was eggs, vegetables, and things like that. So it's why we have this culture in France of cooking vegetable the right way. And for us to eat vegetable become a meal. Mm-hmm. It's not only like a garnish or something like that. We go through a whole meal with vegetables. What I've learned from there in Europe or in New York, was the basic techniques of respecting the vegetables or the fruits. And then when I arrived to Brazil, Brazil has this naturality. The fruit and the vegetable, for example, are so tasty because it's a sunny country and the tropical climate makes it very good for growing fruits. And it's still a virgin country. Every seed that you will throw on the floor will grow in Brazil. And you will grow naturally, organically, and you won't need any product to make it better. So it's why bringing the techniques that I've learned outside and using those perfect products in Brazil makes you better, I think, because you discover new products. I mean, all the fruit and vegetable in Brazil are completely different. I mean, the first time I eat a mango in Brazil, I cried. I really cried. I swear to you. I went to the street market and I had some pineapple, some mango, fresh cutted by the guy. And then when I ate, I was saying, no, I never had a mango in my life. But I used mango in New York, in the restaurant, in London. And I think it was for me like the perfect thing. And then I said, what is the best for a chef to learn something and arrive in a country which is completely different as a culture and to learn something more. So it's why I decided to stay in Brazil for a while, and it's been 20 years now.
That's nice. But Damien, I have to tell you, last year we went to Italy, right? You don't know this, but my great-grandfather was born in Italy, so I'm an Italian citizen. And I grew up, so in the south of Brazil, as you traveled and you've seen. My grandfather, my father, they grew up in the countryside too, right? My father has a ranch, but it's a different story. But I grew up eating polenta and making pasta, okay? And then it's funny that you go to Italy, and of course in the north, you have polenta and you have pasta all over, but you have polenta and you have risotto, that's what we usually make more. But as you're talking about the World War II, I learned that polenta is peasant people's food, like it's poor people's food. And to me, it's the best thing. I can eat it over and over and every week. I don't care. Deep fried, regular, soft, hard, and in the morning with honey for breakfast. So to me, it's amazing. When I landed in Italy and we, for the first time, ate something, and it was the funniest thing. Look, it was inside the Milan airport. There was a Carrefour supermarket and we had to wait for the car to be ready. We went to Carrefour and we ate a panini with prosciutto. It was the best prosciutto in my life. And I was tasting and I'm looking into it and it's like, okay, 4 euros inside the airport for the most amazing prosciutto sandwich. Of course. I bet you there's better prosciutto when you go to the farm, the places that really make the prosciutto. But as you said, things taste different. And in New York, you know this. I think it's because in this country, we have a huge problem with the land. So in Brazil, the land has a ton of nutrients. And so when you have a mango here and you have a mango in London, it's not the same thing. It doesn't come from here, of course. And you can think it's good because it looks good, right? It looks right, but it's not the same. And then all of the vegetables that you're talking about, and you're saying how you respect them because you know how hard it was for you guys to have food through the war. It is understandable. But Damien, how can you teach people on to eat vegetables? Look, think about Brazil. I mean, forget about the restaurants that people go and then they have the best experience. But how can they learn this? Like, we have the best markets, right? You go to the market, you get it. But how can you not ruin? Because I have to tell you, in Brazil, everyone overcooks every single vegetable.
The main thing is that the Brazilians are very healthy. They're people who take care of themselves all the time. And in Rio, for sure, you see every day people having a fruit juice in the morning, having an avocado juice, something very vitamin-y, because they know that it's good for them. The vegetables as well. The thing is, when it's about to have lunch or dinner in Brazil, most of the people eat because they have to. Because it's like, I would say, vulgarly talking, like surviving. Lots of people need to eat because they have to survive. Because food is so important. And then you have these base things, which is the rice and beans in Latin America. And then they have those vegetables, but they will use always the vegetable who will fill them. So you'll have the manioc things. You have like lots of tubercules, like sweet potatoes, like igname, like manioc that they will use, and the vegetables that they will cook naturally just with water and salt to keep the vitamins and to keep the proper nutrients from the ingredients.
But Damien, don't you think that sometimes people want to do too much? Sometimes they want to overdo everything. Like, for example, I followed your video for ratatouille, right? I could never make it right until I saw you doing it in my mom, and it was amazing. So I did it. I think I came to the respecting the vegetables, and it's not pushing to when it's not right, not at the right time to add the things. But you know how sometimes people make it and I don't understand. Maybe it's the wrong pan or the vegetables are not ripe.
Like I was telling you at the beginning, 20 years ago, Brazil never been a gastronomic capital in the world. They never had a gastronomic culture. They have the good product and everything, but it was poorer than Europe or other continents. And then we had like chefs like Alex Atala, for example, who revolutioned Brazil, the entire country, like 10 years ago, to put the high level of gastronomy in Brazil. So from then, I think Brazil changed. And then new techniques, new chefs, new concepts arrived in Brazil and was developed like catering schools. You have Le Cordon Bleu in Rio today. So the formation of cooking for people changed. And then with this pandemic, made it better because we have to cook it at home. So people at home, they involved like techniques to cook it better. So I think Brazil improved those last 10 years of this gastronomic culture involved, you know?
Yes, no, I agree. And Damien, think about when you arrived in Rio, right? And the places you've been. Do you see any other changes besides the new discovery of Brazilian cuisines? Like, you know, in Rio, everyone is healthy, right? In São Paulo, you have great chefs too, great restaurants. I'm just afraid, I don't know, but I think that sometimes people in the rest of Brazil, they might forget their origins. They might forget who they are. Do you see that, or it's just me seeing it from the outside?
No, I think it's a missing from the outside. I think the Brazilian people, they love their own cultures. They're very nationalist, like the American, for example. They love their flag. I mean, they take care of the country. The thing that I won't talk too much about the politics who involved those last 20 years. It's a country who had a lot up and down from the economy. Then the result that the people, the Brazilian who suffers the consequences from that. I think that for me, in 20 years, I saw the evolution of a new generation of Brazilians, you know, who can have an education abroad. When I arrived in Brazil, it was only for rich people, for example, to travel, you know. When I was chefing in a restaurant and I had my customers in a restaurant, you talk to them, and you have only E-class who had the opportunity to go to France, to go to south of France, to go to the restaurant you are talking about, to go to New York, and to know things. Nowadays, the B-class can travel. So I have sometimes some customers who are like 35 years old, young people, and they say, no, chef, I know your places. I've been to have a bouillabaisse in Marseille. I went to Shanghai. I went to New York. And then you see that there is an evolution about that, you know? So people are interested because they have the opportunity to travel. They are interested in gastronomy.
That's very nice. And Damien, have you been to France in the past 20 years?
I was going when the euro was lower.
It hurts to spend money in euros, trust me.
The first 5 years I was going every year. And then when the euro starts to be higher, I say, no, let's spend the money in Brazil because you have some good holiday, know some new places. And today it's my family who comes to Brazil because it's better for them to know the country as well.
Oh, that's very nice. That's very nice. I had like the opposite issue, I think. When I came, first I had to spend, I think it was 4 years before I came back because I was on a student visa. I got married. I just didn't have the time. And you know this, in the U.S., we don't have 30 days vacation. Labor laws are horrible, just say. But I don't want to get into politics. But all I had in the beginning was 2 weeks of vacation for the whole year, right?
Wow.
And one thing that's different for me is I have to go all the way down to Porto Alegre. And going to Porto Alegre in the past, so 20 years ago, let's say when I got here, I had to travel to Rio, which was 10 hours. And I'm not somebody tiny, I'm big. So 10 hours in an airplane for me, it's a problem. problem, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I had to wait at least 5 hours until I caught a flight to go down to Porto Alegre. So it was almost 24 hours to get home, right? But I had to be back in less than 2 weeks. It was at the end more tiring to go, and it wasn't vacation. I called it visitation because I had to visit my mother, my father, my husband
That's
is
right.
also from Porto Alegre, so his family, my grandmother, his grandmother. You don't enjoy. You know this, Brazil has so many beautiful places. I could never take a vacation to a beautiful place. Like I haven't been to Jericoacoara yet or any nice. Wow. Yeah, but we need time too, right? And now that I have a little more time, I have a daughter and I can only travel when she's off from school. And they always came to visit us, but it's one thing that always caught my eyes is my parents saying the same thing. It's like, Nadia, the salt doesn't make food salty in here. The sugar doesn't make food sweet in here. It is very different. The only positive thing they say, the steak, they all have the same cuts and everything is very standard, right? Which is very different from Brazil. One thing we've noticed, and you know this in Brazil too, the cut varies from the south all the way to the north, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And we eat way less fish in the south than we should, and we have beautiful places. I don't want to get into that, and I know that you have to work, so I want to thank you for your time, Damien. It will be my pleasure to have you again whenever you want to come back.
No, pleasure was mine, Nadia. I really enjoyed it. Really nice to share the stories, and from expatriate people, I think it shows that you make to change your country for another, and the lifestyles that you like. Like for me, when I met Rio de Janeiro, I saw myself in this city. I said, no, here it's perfect city for me. It's a lot of things to do. So I think we choose our lifestyle.
It's going to be really hard for me to say goodbye to you. So before I say goodbye to you, okay, I know you love Rio and all that, but do you miss anything from France?
Of course, yeah. I miss the products, and I miss a lot of the culture for sure. Because you never, even if you're abroad and you live abroad, you never forget your culture. You never forget your main standards. So for me, it would be that, to have some French nice meal, you know, to see French people and feel the culture of France, which is very rich as well.
Yes, I know you probably miss going anywhere, getting a baguette, putting it under your arm, and walking around eating the baguette.
Even if today you find some good French product, breads and everything in Brazil, but it's like the French feeling, really. Yeah.
I know, I have to say, I feel the same thing when I go back to Brazil. It is different, but yes, you feel at home. I think that's what you're trying to say. So at the same time, then when you spend time in France and then you come back, you're like, oh my God, it's so good to be back in Rio. This is my home. I miss my home.
Exactly.
You have two homes. Okay, one question I forgot to ask you. I think it's a general consensus. Do you think Brazilian desserts are too sweet?
For me, as a French, yes.
Yeah, and every time I make something here, I have to cut the sugar. And in pastry, you cannot cut things because it's a science. You have to really balance them. But I cook with way less sugar now. Where is it more characteristic? In the desserts, like in pastries, in cake, in things like brigadeiro, forget about it. I know it's sweet, but we love it.
The base of the pastry in Brazil, the main products are already sweet. The sugar cane in Brazil is sweeter than the sugar cane in Cuba or the sugar cane in Portugal or anywhere. So the sugar is already sweeter than the sugar abroad. And then you have the chocolate. When they make chocolate in Brazil, they don't like bittersweet or bitter chocolate, like 70% or something like that. You won't see it in Brazil. Like few people loves it, but you need to have like milk chocolate or like bittersweet chocolate. So it's sweeter things already. It's part of the Brazilian because the palate of the Brazilian is very extremist. Like, you know, they love, like, they put a lot of lime or vinegar in salad, for example. They put a lot of salt because they have like shark meat, you know, a lot of sugar in the sweetness because they will have a little thing like brigadeiro, like small desserts, not as big as we get in France, like big tarts and big desserts, but they have a little thing just to clean their mouth, but it has to be very sweet. That's it. I think it's very extremist like tastes they have in Brazil still.
It is true. It is true. I don't know if you ever had ambrosia.
Yeah, it's made of pure sugar, egg yolk, and then that's it. So.
But we love it. And I don't know, maybe because, you know, if you have it in a farm, like we were saying, you have, of course, you have the sugar from the farm. You have have the milk from the farm. You have the eggs from the farm. The taste is different, no?
Yes. Oh, for sure, yeah.
And then sometimes you go to the city and then somebody makes it and then it's awfully sweet because they bought already the sugar that is way sweeter than the sugar, anything made in the farm.
You know that in whole Brazil, obesity is been a public health problem. Why? Because they used to eat a lot of sugar and lots of salt, more than they should. Nowadays, the new generation is becoming more preoccupied about this. So they want to take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And then us, for me as a chef, it's a challenge that in the new menus that we make today in gastronomic restaurants, we need to think about that. We need to put less butter, less sugar, less fat in the food, less cream, for example. And that is a new challenge for us. But it's becoming a new normal here in Brazil to go to a restaurant and to use a different kind of sugar to make your dessert, like beetroot sugar, like other type of products that you can put less wrong thing in your plate.
Yeah, I understand. Makes sense. And it's beautiful. And you see, you can taste the difference too. My grandma used to say, if you're not fat, you're not healthy. And I say, no, grandma, I cannot be fat.
Exactly. That was our generation, for sure. But today we take care of that. I mean, I have some executive people who goes every day for daily lunch and everything. And then they have fruit for dessert, The guy is going to the restaurant and he doesn't want dessert, he wants fruits. And before, when you were spending money in a restaurant, you wanted the best. You wanted a dessert, you wanted pastry, you wanted something. And now they want fruits,
Damien, I think one day we're going to learn with those French people how to eat well,
The French, the Italian, they are the base of the gastronomy, and it's, I see witnesses that from the beginning in Italy, for example, in Greece and everything, they are country with healthy. And French, they took from them, We can't say that the gastronomy comes from France. They comes from those Mediterranean countries because at the time they had the olive oil, they had all the fishes and seafood, and they used to eat it like healthy,
But I have to tell you something too. When I had to go to the office with the COVID now, I've been working from home since March. My family is very happy because I make breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. In the past, I used to make breakfast and dinner. I couldn't make lunch because I was at work, right? And my daughter would take lunch from home every day to school because what they serve here is junk, it's garbage, But now they are amazed because I make bread almost every day. We make pasta from hand. But, to make pasta, it's flour and eggs. That is it.
Yes.
You don't add anything. You don't need to make a heavy sauce. You can just have it with vegetables or good olive oil.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's so easy and so simple. I wish people would listen, but that's okay. So, Damien, okay, I will say goodbye now, okay? Because I tried to say goodbye 10 minutes ago, and we will keep on talking. So I'm gonna have you over more often, okay?
It's a pleasure, Nadia. Whenever I give you some Brazilian blanc for you to remember and be happy.
Yes. Merci. So thank you very much, mon ami. I appreciate it. I wish you a very nice and healthy work day today. It's Sunday. Let's get to work.
Thank you.
And I'm going to enjoy for you. I know it's supposed to be winter in Rio, but winter in Rio is never winter, okay?
It's 25 degrees still, and the weather is very nice. Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah. So I'm going to enjoy because it's 25 degrees now in New York. It doesn't last forever, okay?
Yeah. I miss it as well.
But Damien, thank you so much for coming. And, my
Thank
house,
you.
It's always open and we'll come back. Dish from around the world this week is Greek-style boneless leg of lamb. For that, you will need the following ingredients. 5 pounds of boneless leg of lamb with all the fat taken out, please. It's very important that you clean it really nicely. 1 cup of white wine, juice of a lime, half a cup of olive oil, 3 cloves of garlic, finely chopped, 2 tablespoons of oregano, same of rosemary, salt and pepper to taste. Cooking directions for your boneless leg of lamb are: Number 1, you will prepare the marinade, and you're going to make sure that your lamb gets infused and left on it overnight. You will season the lamb first with salt and pepper, Then with some twine, you're going to close it so all parts end up cooking evenly. You will put it inside a pan and you're going to put the wine and all of the other liquid and all of the other seasonings. Make sure that it covers the meat so it is very tender the next day. So the next day, or at least 8 hours later, you're going to line up a pan with aluminum foil to make it easier for you to clean. You're going to put the lamb in the middle of it and roast it at the oven for at least 2 hours at 350. Every 30 minutes, you will baste it with the marinade. So save the marinade for you to baste it every 30 minutes so the juice gets inside the meat. It should be ready after that, but make sure that you try and check the temperature and make sure that whatever sauce you had left from cooking in the marinade, you put it over the lamb when you serve it. And my very good friend who's married to a Greek guy said it's the best lamb she ever made. So there you go. Enjoy, bon appetit. Let me know how it comes out.